I'm Ashley Easter.
And I'm Charlie Grantham, and you're listening to Serendipity,
the podcast where we explore everyday magic all around us.
Hi, welcome back to Serendipity. It has been a while.
Yes.
Like how long? Like two
I don't
months?
know.
Maybe close to 2 months, probably by the time this comes out. We both were just like so busy, like I feel like when the spring flowers bloomed, like we were blooming too, you know, like, and it just, we both got so busy.
I wish everybody could have seen us dancing to the intro song too, because it's been so long since we've been able to dance to it.
It's true. I haven't heard our song in so long. Like, I'm like, oh, this is, yeah, I forgot this is like my jam. But anyway, welcome back. And today we're talking about a really cool, I think, I don't know a ton about this. Ashley, you were the one who brought up the idea. And I think you called it collective consciousness, which I'm really interested in for a few reasons. And I don't know, you really are going to be the one kind of taking it over today and teaching me, but just to kind of let you know where I'm coming from, that when you voice memoed me and you kind of brought up collective consciousness, I thought about, there's like a sociology term, because that's like what my bachelor's degree is in sociology. And I'm like, you know, I love sociology. Like the founder of sociology, he coined this term called collective consciousness. And I just wonder if it kind of relates to what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's like the ideas, it describes basically like the collective like ideas or like attitudes and beliefs that like a group of people hold. So it can be applied to like all these different things. We're going to talk about it in a very specific like way today, but I think that's what really like sparked my interest, because I don't know if it's similar at all. Like it could be something totally different, but that's what it reminded me of. And I was like, like this sounds like really fun and interesting. So
yeah. So this is a topic that I wouldn't say I'm an expert in, but it's been something that I have been looking into and I think is so fascinating and would really just kind of like make sense of just pretty much everything in the world. And also, hopefully people that are tuning into this have listened to our episodes about like quantum physics and other dimensions and, you know, extraterrestrials and all the things, because if you have, I feel like this sort of ties in all that stuff, or if you haven't, that maybe this will prompt you to go back and listen to some of those episodes.
Those are really good episodes. Those are so much fun.
They're so much fun. I love talking about this stuff. So my understanding of the term collective consciousness is that there is a theory that we create our reality. And some people call this manifestation. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But that it's not just that the things that we do like in the 3D realm of like cause and effect, like if I pick up a pen and I drop it, you know, I caused, you know, the pen to drop. It is that, but it also goes into like being able to manifest realities based on your thoughts. And also being able to communicate through the quantum realm. So just kind of as a refresher about quantum physics, if people aren't familiar. So it's a really detailed subject and we're learning new stuff all the time. And I'm not a quantum physicist, but I love to binge read articles about quantum physics because it's just a completely new way to look at reality. Completely different from what we had ever thought of in the past, and science is proving it. But one of the things you learn is that everything is energy. And even the things that look like they are solid, when you zoom down really close with a super intense microscope, it is actually energy, it is vibration, and it's movement. And there's actually a lot of particles that are connected to each other, but then also space in between those particles. And so what looks like a solid is actually not a solid. It's like vibrating energy, but it appears as a solid because of the dimension that we're in and kind of the I guess, different pressures and gravity and all those things that sort of hold
Yeah.
it together. But it's not just physical things that are energy, it's also our thoughts. And what I love about talking about intuition is that I believe, from what I've read about quantum physics and what I've experienced, is that that is part of where we pick up information from our intuition, is we can tap into these different frequencies of information. And some people might call that like the Akashic Records, and I think we had a podcast
Yes.
about those. Um, some people just call it quantum energy, but if everything is energy and intuition is the part of you that reads energy, you should, in theory, be able to pick up on energy and read energy, at a distance, and really get insights from different people in different places. I feel like we've even talked about the power of quote unquote prayer. And it doesn't matter what God you're praying to necessarily, but basically, this idea of sending good vibes. There's been some studies and research showing that it actually does reach that person and can, in some ways, affect the outcome. And so basically, just keep in your mind this idea that everything in the universe is like energy waves that you can tap into. But at the same time, you are a creator, you are a manifester. And so you can create new things, you can create energy. So your thoughts can become things. And you can see that when we talk about the law of attraction, how you can attract things with your thoughts. Of course, you have to take aligned actions as well, but you're more likely to pull those things to you if you think about them and bring them into your reality. But there's also a theory that you can think and create things in your mind and they exist in other dimensions. So, your thoughts, again, are energy, and when you put them out, energy can never be destroyed, so it's always out there. And so, this idea of collective consciousness, there's a bunch of different ways you can look at it, but it's basically that our reality is created by the thoughts that we as a collective of people think. And that we can tap into this collective consciousness, which is basically this big pool of information, and get information, but we can also add information to like this big pool
Yeah.
of energy. So, kind of what you were saying with sociology, that's sort of like a microcosm of how it could work. So, if a group of people has undergone a big trauma, they're probably all going to see the world in a very similar way and create a type of reality based on these beliefs that they have about their community, about how they interact with people. And that also would kind of explain, because quantum physics tells us that the universe is really just a holograph. So it's just like a projection of our conscious minds. So why are we all seeing the same reality for the most part? Why is a tree, brown and green? Well, it's because we're tapped into this collective consciousness where we're all projecting sort of the same ideas into the world and overlapping, and we are learning from other people's ideas, and we're simultaneously creating new ideas together. And it's not just ideas, it's also like our physical reality, according to this theory. So, what I think is so cool about this is there have been stories for thousands of years of people talking to God or to goddesses.
Yeah.
And as I've kind of deconstructed from mainstream Christianity, I've kind of started to see God as more of this energy that holds everything together, that God is kind of the energy of quantum physics. But if you take this belief that we can create reality with our minds, I heard this theory that said that the gods and goddesses that we create actually exist in other dimensions, but they exist because a group of people has been saying and thinking and acting as if they are a real thing. And so, because all of the collective thoughts are coming together, that we can actually interact with that thought form, and that collective thought form actually creates something we might be able to have some sort of communication with. And so I don't really believe in gods and goddesses in the sense of like they're these all knowing, all seeing, powerful things that control every aspect of our lives.
Hmm.
But what if, as a society, we made up this concept of, I don't know, like the goddess Isis, and we attributed to her all these particular archetypes and qualities, and that she has this backstory and she did these things and she represents this and she gives off this energy. And if all of those thoughts came together in the quantum realm to kind of condense into an energy form that we would call maybe the goddess Isis or Horus, or,
Hmm.
whatever religion you're from, and that could explain why sometimes people feel a connection to gods or goddesses in another realm. And then pair that with, not only could we create that, but because of our intuition, we can tap into energy. What if that's how
Hmm.
people actually communicate with those kind of beings that we've made in other realms? And so when I heard this theory, I was like, we have to talk about it on the show. I don't know if it's right, but it sure is fascinating.
Wait, that's really interesting. And it's making me think, um, just like the thoughts coming up for me. I went to Catholic high school, so like for
Yeah.
5 years, like 8th through 12th grade. And so I learned a lot about, I had to take religion every year, and I learned a lot about the Catholic religion. And um there were a lot of stories told that, and just kind of even taking like God out of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
thinking of people like Mary, like the mother of
Mm.
God,
Right.
or saints, like there's a lot of saints in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stories, and I guess I'll talk about them separately. So like for Mary, there's been a lot of like sightings. And so there's and I could be wrong, but this is how I remember it. But like different like I think like Our Lady of Guadalupe, like I
Mm-hmm.
think is like actually referring to like a sighting of Mary that someone like in,
Right.
I don't know if it was like Guatemala or it was
Mhm.
another country other than the United States. That's all I remember. But like it was a sighting of Mary, there, and there other people like there's these sightings of Mary. And so like that makes sense to like what if like so many people, because I mean this is like a huge religion, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Church is like huge. So many people believe in this, and have created this like thought or this idea in another realm that it's showing up in this. And the same thing that's making me think about the saints, because, and this is like a funny kind of, it's not a funny story, but just an interesting story.
Yeah.
So, and I need to Google to like see like exactly if I'm remembering this right. But so our school was like part of the Salesian like sect. Like they have like different in the Catholic Church they have
Yeah.
like, it's all in the Catholic Church, but then they have like different focuses. So like there's
Right.
like the
Right.
Jesuits and whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
mine was like the Salesians, and like the founder of the Salesians was Don Bosco. And so he was this priest in like Italy, I think. Anyway, this all has a point. I know it sounds very dry, like talking about
No, no, it's
priests, but
interesting to me.
um so anyway, he founded like the Salesians. And so he is a saint in the Catholic Church. And so to be a saint in the Catholic Church, you have to like do certain things. And I don't remember all the criteria, but you have to do certain things while you're alive. But that's actually not enough. Once you die, you have to have like certain miracles
Oh.
performed or attributed to you.
Hmm.
And either one of them has to be relating to your dead body, or they often are. So like for Don Bosco, I think it was his tongue. This is where it gets weird. It was like his tongue and like his right arm or something like that that never decayed. Like
Hmm.
they were in the same like form or whatever. Like how like bodies
Yeah,
deteriorate and
yeah.
like whatever, like disintegrate over time. There were like multiple parts of his body that did not disintegrate. And in fact,
Interesting.
it was like went on a worldwide tour to
What?
different places, and it came to my town because there were like multiple Salesian schools in my town, and we like went and saw his dead body, and he'd been dead for like 200 years or something.
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
this is where it gets weird. But anyway, I'm just wondering, like, what if these rules were set up, right? There's this religion and there's this collective idea, and then there's rules set within that religion that says the
Mm-hmm.
saints, in order to be a saint, you have to perform these things after
Right.
you die. And because that the collective consciousness created this thought, that is where those things are coming from. Like, it's not like he's in, another realm, like in heaven, like
Mm-hmm.
making his tongue
Right.
not disintegrate.
Right.
Like,
What if we did that instead of him?
right. Like, what if,
Yeah.
and maybe like some people, I feel like I've heard, this is so long ago, but I feel like I've heard of some saints, like full bodies not disintegrating. And like, what
Hmm.
if maybe that was like a more popular saint or a more popular figure within the
Right.
church? So there was more of the collective consciousness like focused on that
Hmm.
person. So their miracles were like greater and more powerful than maybe this one, who a lot of people don't know who Don
Mhm.
Bosco is. And so he just got a tongue and like whatever,
Yeah.
his arm, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
that's what it made me think of, just because I have some background, like in with like saints and the Catholic Church. I feel like a lot of that type of stuff happens um within that religion. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a really cool thought, and just kind of it almost kind of makes me think of like a cloud, like how you could have like steam or something in the air,
mhm.
but as it gets more dense, as there becomes more water droplets, it becomes like a cloud, and then it gets more dense and it gets darker, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden it like falls to earth to
Yeah.
water. And I kind of wonder if, according to this theory, if kind of enough thought energy is put towards something, if it becomes more and more dense to where and we're in a 3D reality where it
Right.
has to be very dense for us to actually be able to see it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Makes sense. I mean,
I think it's really interesting, like looking at archetypes of like gods and goddesses. I'm really interested in the ones in Egypt just because I think they're
mhm.
fascinating, have fascinating backstories. But I know people who say that, whether it's Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary or a saint or whatever, that they call on them for a certain quality or trait, like courage
Mhm.
or compassion or
Yes.
something. And what if you really can draw that trait from that focused attention, because so many people have attributed courage or
Oh my
compassion or love.
gosh. Yeah.
And so maybe that could potentially explain why people feel like they have relationships with um, different entities outside of our dimension.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure there were like people, I wasn't Catholic. And so like I didn't participate in a lot of like maybe
Hmm.
things that my friends were. But they had like, there were people that had like their favorite saints, the people
Yeah.
that they related to. And there is like, I think it's Saint Andrew is like the patron saint of like, well, I don't know, but it's basically like if you lose something, you pray to Saint Andrew because he'll help you
Yeah.
find. So like what if it's like all these people like sending their energy, asking for things to be found, and then it is this able to come about. Or even like I'm thinking about, and I don't, this is just a thought that came
Yeah.
into my mind, but like how like after Jesus died
Hmm.
and he appeared, like the Bible even I think says like in one of the gospels, I really have not read it in a long time, but I think it says something like they described like when Jesus appeared to either some of the apostles or
Uh-huh.
one or something, they described him look it almost like a ghost or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, and this collective belief among these, and I know it wasn't like the whole world, it was just like
Sure,
this,
sure.
certain
Group of
people,
people. Yeah.
but it was a pretty intense belief. It was a pretty
Mhm.
strong relationship they had.
Yeah.
um could that have made, like I don't know, it's just like I'm starting to think like
Hmm.
and even within like maybe like witchcraft and like
Hmm.
spells and like
Hmm.
um things like that, like there's enough people who believe in this
Hmm.
to where like maybe that's part of what makes certain spells work. And like
Right.
anyway, that this is really cool. Like it's making me think a lot about, there's just so many ways you can kind of
Yeah.
like go
And
with it.
I don't know if it's true or not, but it would make
Mhm.
sense of so many things.
Yeah.
And even just I don't know, just thinking about, have you heard of, I think it's called the Mandela effect?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like people will have this idea that Nelson Mandela died at a certain point, but he actually didn't.
Right.
Or people will remember the Berenstain Bears versus the, what is it,
Berenstein or something like that.
Berenstain Bears, something
Yeah.
like that, or other things that like collectively people see it one way and believe that that is reality and then act as if that is the
Yeah.
reality, and then other people believe like a different reality, and it's like people have asked like, is that a glitch that happened,
Right.
um, or is it just that we kind of will something to
Well, that
happen?
that reminds me, there was, so this is a smaller scale of this
Hmm.
clearly, but someone had, we had a friend visiting us like last summer, and they were like, "Oh, you would like this band." And we were in the car like, "Play this band." And I heard it as Lake Street Drive as the name of the band. And
Uh-huh.
I put it in my phone as Lake Street Drive, and it came up. I loved it, became one of my favorite bands. Like, I listened to them
Yeah.
so much. Nate loves them. He knows them as Lake Street Drive. That's the only way I've ever referred to them. And I've like literally thought that's such a cool name. We like, I listened to them so much that Spotify sent me a notification saying, "Hey, they're gonna be in your city. Do you want to go to their
Nice.
concert?" And
Nice.
so I was like, "Oh, Lake Street Drive is gonna be here." And so
Yeah.
the friend was like, "Yeah, like I want to go too." So Nate and I bought tickets to this concert, and we we bought them for like him and his girlfriend too, and or like we're all going together. Anyway, the point of it is, I went to like send my mom like a YouTube video so she
Yeah.
could hear their music, and I typed in Lake Street Drive, and it pulled up their stuff, but then it says showing results for Lake Street Dive. And I was
What?
like, that's not right. And so I Googled it, and everywhere I looked, it said Lake Street Dive. And I was like, it has been like a full year of me listening to this. What, like, they're one of my top artists.
Yeah.
Like, and Nate calls them that. Like, Nate couldn't believe it when I said it. And I was like, I feel so stupid. I've been calling them the wrong name for like a whole year. But Nate, like, we both couldn't believe that it was actually Dive, when it's like, I
Right.
saw it on my phone. Like, I was
Mhm.
somehow missing the R, and it was like, it's almost like to me, like it's not even the same band. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
and Nate and I both had that same
Well,
experience.
and that's the thing. Like, if it had just been you, it would have been like, oh, silly me or whatever. Like, if it was
Right.
me, I would have been like, oh, dyslexic error. But like other people
Yeah.
around you thought the same thing.
And I don't know if his friend thought, I need to ask, because I was like,
Yeah.
I swear to God that he said drive. And I can't, like, I just, and it was like, and I was like, and I told Nate at the time, I was like, it's like that Mandela effect where like people think Chick-fil-A spelled like two
Right.
different ways, which I was
Right.
one of those people. So anyway, that just reminded me, like, on a smaller scale. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so trippy because, I mean, if it's true and we can actually, create different realities. I mean, we're finding out so many things like time is not linear. Like
Mm-hmm.
time doesn't really exist like we think it does. And, it can speed up and slow down. And I even read an article about like time. I think I want to say it speeds up when you're on a mountain versus when you're on the ground, or something. Like
Oh,
it's just, it might have been reversed, but there's just so many things that we have believed about reality that we think are static.
mm-hmm.
And number one, they're not static because they're energy and it's like energy
Yeah.
waves. But what if they're like less static than we thought? And what if we have influence over them? And um, I would also be interested, like, if it's true, like, what is the tipping point to make something, like, how many people do you have to create
Yeah.
something in another dimension? And then how many people do you have, or how much time, or, whatever before that, like, manifests in, like, the 3D reality? Um, and
So
yeah.
let me ask your opinion about this. This is something I just thought about. So if let's say this theory is like correct
Mm-hmm.
and this can happen, do you think the in the way that like a collective can create like a another energy or like a
Mm-hmm.
being, entity, whatever, or thought, um like, and let's say the idea of like heaven
Mm-hmm.
and hell, can people create an actual place, do you
Mm.
think? Because I don't like that. I was gonna say
Oh,
that makes me like worried, but at the same time, how could someone create a, how could a collective create a place that then someone would like, that still doesn't really, I feel like it doesn't vibe with the theory, because
mm-hmm.
then like people, like I feel like it's the idea of people being like forced into something.
Right. It seems
It's
like
not
an
part of,
opt-in or opt-out kind of thing.
yeah,
You know, like even when you think of like the Mandela effect, um, some people like opt into it and some people don't.
don't, yeah,
And um, you know, even like the gods and goddesses, like some people like vehemently do not believe in this god or goddess, and some people vehemently do, and
yeah,
so they kind of, well, I feel like it's like a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
yeah.
That's more and more how I see life is just like you can kind of get out of it what you want, and um, I don't know. It seems like what I know of the universe, it seems like it bends towards love and
Yeah.
expansion
Hmm.
because that is more evolutionarily beneficial to survival. And we see like more advanced species, they tend to be more um, caring of others within their species versus the lower versions of,
Hmm.
you know, animal species. So it seems like I don't know. It seems like ultimately it would kind of be bending towards something good, and if you wanted to go to a bad place, that you could maybe opt into that because you wanted to experience it.
Well,
But
yeah, yeah, like that makes, like I was just thinking about how sometimes people have like the out of body experiences when they
hmm,
almost die or they do
yeah,
technically die,
hmm,
and come back to life. There's such a variety of things that
right,
happen and places that people go. It's not
yeah,
just like, I when I grew up, it was like, oh my gosh, there's all these people who have had near death experiences where they died and they actually went to heaven, or they died and they actually went to
right,
hell, and that was like it. And I was like, oh my god, it must be real. But actually there's like a lot of people who have the same experiences, but they experience like the idea, there's like the theory that this is just like a simulation, and there's like
right,
people, and that people who die, they literally die, see that, oh, this is all a simulation, like there's
right,
buttons and there's people controlling it, and the people who die then control it, and then she comes back to life. Or there's people who there's just like a bunch of different experiences that people have. And so it's not that just like, oh, like it almost seems like maybe the sometimes there's like the people who've had maybe certain experiences, maybe
hmm,
that's where they were kind of like pointing towards,
right,
like wanting to, go to heaven, or wanting to prove that
right,
hell is real or something, you know what I mean? Like maybe
right,
that's
right,
why they experienced that, because they were like so in, already like
yeah, yeah,
entrenched in
or that
that.
they were like a vibrational match for it, like if
Yeah.
because I tend to think like in terms of hell that we create hell by the hate we create for ourselves and others, and that
Yeah.
hell is less of like an actual place and more of like an energy of just like really having strong hatred.
Yeah.
And so if somebody is vibrating as just a really hateful person, maybe that's what they would manifest, versus if somebody is
Mm,
vibrating as like I want good for myself and other people.
yeah.
Have you seen the show Lucifer?
No, you recommended that to me, and
Okay.
I actually, it's funny, I never watched it because I just like I'm like I have a
Yeah, yeah,
list. It's still on my list,
yeah,
honestly. But I actually we were watching Jeopardy, and I got the Jeopardy question right because you told me about it and I know the plot, and I was like,
yeah,
Lucifer, and I was right, and Nate
yeah.
was like, have you seen that? I'm like, no, but Ashley told me that I should watch it.
Yeah, but I kind of like their idea of heaven or hell. It was more like hell was not something that somebody else cast you into. It was more like, you know, if you won't let go of guilt, or
Yeah.
you won't let go of certain things. Anyway, I don't know, but I just think it's really fascinating, and like if we could prove that there's a way to create these things, and then like intentionally get people together to like design something, or someone,
Yeah.
and like it just seems like it could be really useful and fun. And then where does it end from there? Like
Yeah. Well, that could be
infinity.
like like the aliens, right? Or
Right,
ghost,
right,
or like whatever. Like that's from a collective group of people, maybe that, because there's a lot of people who believe in aliens. Like
right.
maybe that's something that we created
Or
or not.
maybe we're the things that the aliens
Right.
created, and we're
Exactly.
like the physical 3D manifestation
Right.
of their.
Exactly. Right. We're not the main characters in this.
Right.
Like no,
I
that's
don't
really
know.
interesting. And I think I told you about, it kind of just reminds me, but I think I told you about the movie Everything, or
Yeah, yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I can't wait to see that. It's on my
So
list.
good. But it kind of reminds me kind of like, there's like the idea in that movie, like without giving away, there's like these just different realms, or like different
Mhm.
universes, and like in every universe, like you are like a different person. I mean, you're the same person, but like in one universe she was like a karate expert, like a black belt in
Yeah, yeah.
karate, and then another expert she or universe she was like a chef, and like
Mhm.
and the idea is that you can tap into those other universes that are happening at the
Yeah.
same time as what we're in, and you
Mhm.
can tap into like what you have or what you are
Mm.
in those other like universes. And it's just such a beautiful story. Like it's anyway, it's one of my favorite movies. But I think about that in that movie, like I would say it probably changed, I'm a very dramatic person, but I think it changed my life. I mean, I
Yeah,
would say
yeah.
that at the minimum, it changed my perspective, and it's giving me more like tools and stuff. Because
Mhm.
sometimes since I've seen that, if something has happened, I think, okay, well, and like I can get upset. It's not that you can't be sad about things, but like
Sure, sure.
one thing that's helped me is to think, okay, but in another universe, like that's
Mhm.
happening for me. And like it's just not
Right.
this one. Like this is just
Yeah.
not the one for it.
Right.
And that's okay. And like, obviously you can only do that to an extent for some things, but it's actually in the past, few weeks and months, I have used
Mhm.
that. Or like in another universe, like my grandparents are alive, and
Right.
like it just is like, instead of being like sad in that
Mhm.
moment, which is totally okay to be, and sometimes I do just have to cry, like you can channel into another place where they are still there, and they are still, because
Yeah.
that's something Nate told me when I said I hate that I feel like they're gone. And Nate was
Right.
like, well, they're not. That's like time is like we're still in the time that they
Yes.
existed.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing as you said. And so ever since that, it's like been almost really easy for me to like close my eyes and almost like meditate back to their house, and they're
Mm.
there. And the other day I even like walked in to our apartment, and like for a second I got a whiff of their house.
Oh,
And I was like, wow, like it just makes me think all of this is still happening, all of this stuff still
yeah.
exists, and there's a place that it exists, and it
Mhm.
just is like a comforting feeling, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, no, I love that so much. And I'm curious, when people are listening to this episode, if they're going to have other, like, I just feel like this is just like a foundationally different way of looking at
Yeah.
life in the universe. And I'm wondering if people tuning in are going to have stories like what you said,
Yeah.
with feeling close to your grandparents, or how they felt like they connected with a deity or saint or something like that. I also, one other thing before we wrap it up, I was just thinking about how people have such vastly different views of Jesus and
Yes.
tapping into Jesus's energy. And so, what if people are really tapping into something, but they're what if people are really tapping into something, but they are tapping into a particular type of collective consciousness that's been created around Jesus? So, like white supremacists, and like kind of that white Jesus, where it's like hate and, like
Yeah.
exclusion. What if people are tapping into that idea of Jesus and kind of
Hmm.
pulling quote unquote strength from that, but they're pulling it actually from the thoughts of other people, not really Jesus? and then
Right.
other people who have more of a like a historical view of Jesus, or like a, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder
Yeah.
if that kind of explains how people can use like a deity's name and have such a vastly different connection and view of them, if
Yeah.
maybe they're not so much tapping into that deity per se, but more so ideas created around that deity, and those ideas change vastly based on where you
Right.
are at in the world or what time period you're in. And um
That's true.
yeah.
And because, like, and you think about like any of the like really major religions that have like a ton of people, like in Christian, there's like
Hmm.
thousands of denominations
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Christianity. And like, and I don't know like well, but I'm pretty sure like in Islam, there are different kind of like in Christianity where I don't know if it's specific dominations, but
Hmm.
beliefs really do vary across the board.
Right.
And probably with other religions too. And I can't think of it right now,
Yeah,
but
Judaism, yeah, for sure. They've got
right.
different sects and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so what if it's like there are different like because I have thought about that before. I'm like, wow, there's so many ways to interpret this, right? Like there's
Mhm.
endless ways to interpret like the Bible and different rules and stuff within Christianity. Um how can that be? Like how can, people have like technically be the same religion and have these like very different, like polar opposite almost
Mhm.
beliefs about the person that they're worshiping or the idea that they're worshiping. And that actually makes a lot of sense that there's just these different deities if there's enough people who believe
Mhm.
in it or the belief is strong enough within maybe not like I was saying like in like the disciples and like the few people um when like Jesus
Uh-huh.
was alive, um like the belief was strong enough to create something more. I don't know. Like it's just really
Yeah.
interesting. And it's like, I mean, like I think you said, like, you're not sure if you believe it or not.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
don't know if I believe it or not, but
I
it
don't
really
know.
is interesting. And I think it would explain some things. Um, so yeah. Oh, this
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, I hope that people reach out to us with their thoughts about this, if they've had
yeah.
any experiences, or if it like clarifies something for them, like if this theory is true. Um, yeah, we're always looking for y'all to send in your serendipitous stories. So like, please,
Yeah.
um, if this sparks something for you, like we want to hear about it because we're into the weird, we're into the woo,
We love
and
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of turning the corner on that note, Charlie, you've got a serendipitous story for us, right?
Yeah, it's like not it's like it is serendipitous, I guess. It's really like a happy story, like more so
Yeah,
that it's
okay.
just like, it's not super woo or anything. But Nate and I were getting coffee and we parked into like this parallel parking spot and we were like the last spot. So like
Yeah.
there was like open space behind us, but it wasn't like actual parking spot. And we get back in the car and like immediately turn the car on, and Nate puts it in reverse before the camera, like, and all the sensors can even come
Uh-huh.
on. So nothing beeped, and we like bumped the car behind us. There was a car behind us that was not there
Oh.
before in a spot that was not actually a spot. And so we were like, oh my gosh. And there wasn't, we like looked, we're like, there's no damage to the car. But there was no one in the car, and we waited for like 15 minutes because we were like, well, I feel like we should at least, stick around.
Yeah.
Because like, you're not supposed to like, that's like, I mean, I don't think it'd be a hit and run because we didn't actually like damage
Right.
it, but still. So it was like 15 minutes, they didn't come. So we were like, okay, well, let's just leave a note. And so Nate left a note that said like, hey, I bumped your car, but I didn't see any damage. If you want to talk about it, here's my phone number.
Yeah.
Well, Nate got a text from the person, and it was like so nice. And Nate was like really nervous. Like he was
Yeah.
like really like anxious about it. And I was kind of like, felt like I think it'll be fine. I mean, it's not like we
Yeah,
did
yeah.
anything. The chances of there being like a huge like asshole who was going to make a big deal of
Sure.
it in Maine,
Sure.
I feel like is slim. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like not worried about it. So this is what the text said. It was like the sweetest thing that like made our day. It says, hi, Nate. First off, my entire family was so impressed with your honesty. I thought I got a parking ticket and then was totally taken by surprise with your note. You demonstrated to my two children the importance of being honest and a good human. From our end, our car is good to go. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for leaving that note. You made one big
Oh.
positive impact on our family. Like, I just thought that was the nicest thing because
That's
it was like,
sweet.
we didn't think much of it. Like, if any, like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
bumped his car and he's like thanking us, like, from the bottom of his heart, like, or her heart, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, it was just like so sweet and it made our day. And
Oh.
I feel like it kind of goes almost back to like our episode about like being your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not so much being your authentic self, but one of the reasons I said it's so wasn't so impactful for me is learning about that was
Right.
because of like human connection. And I think that really made like, I mean, it made my day, but it really made Nate's day. It was like the day after, and he was
Yeah.
having a hard day at work. And the fact that we like took the time to like, you know, write the note, which was like a 2-minute ordeal. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
like a whole thing. But just to be able to connect with someone, even like over text like that, it just like, it was just a really happy story and not serendipitous, but definitely happy.
Oh, I love that. You always bring the good, happy stories. Like it's just like heartwarming, and I don't know. I think everybody enjoys it because I know I enjoy it. It's just
Sunshine and butterflies.
yes, yes. We hear so much negative news, and we need some good news. That's
Yeah.
and I love that the children, got to see it as well, and hopefully
I know.
help
It sounded
them,
like,
you know,
yeah.
you know, strides towards honesty in the world, which we can
Yeah.
use more of that. Yeah.
Yeah. What about
Well,
you?
I've
Do you
got one.
have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got one. So, I follow this woman, Sahara Rose. I think I mentioned her to you,
Yes.
and I may have even mentioned her here before.
Mhm.
Um, she has this membership, and I'm a part of the membership program. And I specifically joined because members get to go to the in-person retreat in Miami,
Mhm.
and so I was like, I want to be a member of this because I want to meet her in person. I want
Yeah.
to be able to, get together with all these kind of spiritual, cool women. And I was really excited about it. So I booked the flight, a while ago and went to Miami. The whole retreat was great. The whole retreat was great. Um, and they had a variety of different speakers. One was talking about like self massage and like how you can like drain your lymphic system. So that was cool. There was a shaman there who did some different cool talks. And um, then we had like this lady who did an intuition session, which I loved. And I didn't necessarily learn anything new about like the concept of intuition, but she had this
Mm.
cool thing where she did an intuition circle where it was like all, I don't know how many people were there, like 80 or 90 people. She asked for one person to volunteer, and they asked a question, and then we all as a group like intuitively gave the messages we were picking up and kind of shared with her. And so that was fun, and just to see from
Yeah.
across the room how people were jotting things down, and they would read it off their notepad, and then somebody else, she'd be like, I think you have something to say, and they would have had like, here's my notepad, and they would have jotted down like the exact same thing.
Oh, cool.
Maybe one person had 3 words and they had like full sentences, but it contained those 3 words, and this person got
Yeah.
imagery, and so that was cool. But then we took it to another level, and we had something called manifestation portals, I think they called them. And so we all broke up into groups of 4, and we would take turns having one person stand in the center of our little circle and have like 3 people around them. And you would talk about the thing that you wanted to manifest, and you would get like, I don't know, 60 seconds, and they would put it on the clock, and you would talk about the thing you're trying to manifest and bring into your life. And then there'll be like another 60 seconds, 2 minutes, something like that, where the people outside would just kind of feel into the energy of that and try to pick up any information. And then you would have like a 5-minute sharing session where the 3 people on the outside would share what intuitive wisdom they picked up from like tapping into your energy. And so it was really cool. Like, I brought forward the thing about wanting to have a home in the ocean, and people were getting like particular vibes and things that I'd seen in my imagination in the past, and so that was cool, just different confirmations. But the one story, and this is the one I want to share, this lady, she stepped into our circle, and she said she was looking for love, and she talked about it. She didn't say exactly what she was looking for in like the person as to what they look like, but
Yeah.
just kind of the qualities that she wanted.
Okay.
And so we all kind of held our hands out and kind of felt into that. And immediately I started getting like these images that came to my mind. And so I was like, I would like to go first. Actually, I think she might even turn to me first. But anyway, I went first. And I was like, I'm getting this image. And she was a white lady. I was like, I'm getting this image, and do you identify as white? And she said, yes. I said, I'm getting this feeling that you need to date outside your race, and that you need to broaden your realm of people that you're interested in. And I'm getting this picture of this young Latina man, and just that he's really gonna appreciate you and embody all the qualities that you're looking for, and that you're really gonna jive with him and be able to like give him what he needs. And then I said, and there's something about salsa dancing. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means to you, but salsa dancing. And you should have seen her face. She's like, oh my God, Ashley. She said, last night I was on the beach and there was a Hispanic young man. She was probably, I don't know what her age was, maybe like late 50s, I would guess. And he was a little bit younger than her. And I had this vision that he was a little bit younger, but an adult man. This younger Latino man came up to her and they sparked this connection. And they started like making out on the beach and just like kissing and just going at it. And they were like so aligned. And then get this, he asked her to go salsa dancing, and she was going to go the night that I said this. So it was the night before that she met him, and he invited her salsa dancing on this night and I was like, oh my God, you have to go. And so she went and she sent me a message and she was like, oh my God, you were right. And like, I don't know if that's her soulmate or if it was just getting her on the right track, but I was floored. And what stood out to me was like, I get these intuitive hits all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I rely on like cards to kind of like prompt it, and that works and that's helpful, and I do that for my clients. But being in a space where somebody was like just asking me what I just picked up without giving me any of those details, like I never met this woman before. And to be able to pick up all those things just intuitively and it to be so spot on, I was like, wow, I need to start like just coming up to people at the grocery store and being like, hey, I've got a vision for you. Like I'm too scared to do that. But you know, I was like, wow. And I don't know, it was just one of the times where I had like no tools to aid me to like lean on and be like, oh, the cards help me. Like it was purely intuition, and it was like spot on, and it just kind of gave me that boost of confidence, like, okay, I really can trust my intuition, and I can feel confident about telling people what I'm picking up about them. If they ask, of course, you know, I don't want to just...
Well, it's like you say, the magic is you. It's not the tools. Like it's not the cards. It's not the crystals, it's not the whatever, it's in you. And that proves it right there, you know, like where it's a testament to it that that's correct. You didn't have any of those tools, you just had your intuition. And did you get to see a picture of this person? Because I want to...
No.
Oh my
I'm gonna have to ask her for that. I hope she took a picture, because she hadn't like the night before, I don't think. But I don't know, it was amazing. And I also was wondering like what role like consent played into it, because she was like opening up her energy for us to pick up stuff. And so I wonder like if you're a lot more accurate when that person also has the intention of like opening themselves up. I don't know, but
that's kind of like with the Akashic records.
Yeah.
She said like you can't open someone's records without their consent. And I kind of was like, I didn't fully get that at the time, to be honest.
Right.
I was like, I just don't get how that works. But now that you're saying that, like, I guess I could see it. Like I could see why you can't access maybe someone's energy without, or like whatever, without them like being open to it. Like if they're closed off, then they're closed off. And so, but anyway, that's really cool. That is like, I was like, I couldn't stop smiling because I was like, this is like a really cute story, like too. Like, I mean, whether they end up together or not,
right.
It sounds like they had a pretty good time, you know, like
they did. Yes, it sounded like it anyway.
At least she made some memories, you know, if anything. So, but oh, that's so cool. Well, we love serendipitous stories. If you have a serendipitous story, a happy story, an intuition story, a ghost story. I always say ghosts because like those are my favorite, but
Yes,
whatever
please
it
bring the ghost
is,
stories.
we love ghost stories. Whatever it may be, we would like to hear it. You can DM us on Instagram. Our Instagram is serendipity.pod. You can even send us like a voice memo that way, and we may play your story on the show. Or you can email us at pod.serendipity@gmail.com. Either way, we just like are addicted to serendipitous stories.
Yes, please send them. And if you enjoyed this episode, if you'd like us to make more, a great way to kind of give back and like support the podcast is to send us a review, particularly on Apple Podcasts. And when you type out that review, and hopefully you'll leave us 5 stars, that would be amazing.
Yes.
Take a screenshot before you send it, and then hit submit, and then send that screenshot of you leaving the review to us. You can either email it at pod.serendipity@gmail.com, or on Instagram you can send it to us in a message. Serendipity.pod is our Instagram handle, and we will give you a free gift as a thank you. It's really cute. It's wallpaper background for your laptop, for your computer, for your iPhone, but also there's a format of it that is print quality, and so you can actually print it out at a professional printer and hang it up on your wall. It's really beautiful,
So
custom
cute,
artwork.
yeah.
And,
With butterflies, which is like, who doesn't love butterflies? But yes, so thank you so much for listening, and you're gonna want to come back next week. We have a special mini episode with a very, I think, fun serendipitous story. So thanks for listening. Bye.